it's amazing to have you on Moon Lane TV in celebration of Victoria's Stitch, which we absolutely adore, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And I'd like to start by just asking you a bit about your background and how you got to where you are today, which is a massive question because you've achieved so much. But I think for some of the children and adults and maybe some of the teachers that might be watching this, it might be really interesting for them to hear about your journey, particularly through school, how you ended up in the career that you're in, what kind of qualifications did you need and things like that. So perhaps you could give us an overview about that.
Okay, well, I didn't realise that an author illustrator was a job you could do until we had James Mayhew visit our school, and that was when I realised that was a job you could do. And so that was the moment when I decided that was what I wanted to do, because I'd always loved art and creating things and writing, but I don't know, I sort of thought if you wanted to do art, you had to do art. I didn't realise you could specialise like that. So that was when I decided. I think I was about 15 actually, maybe even 16. Like it was quite a late on. And then so then I would just really zoned in on that, and I did illustration at university, and then I did an MA in children's book illustration after that, and sort of got into the industry through that, I would say, because it was the MA was really good, and it was quite linked up with the industry, so it was a bit easier to get your work seen, I think. So
yeah, because I read that your first books that you published actually were published, is they in America, is that right?
Yeah, my first 2 picture books were published in the US.
So how did that come about, from a girl from England who went to university and everything, did all her qualifications over here? How come your first route into the publishing scene was through the States?
That was because on my MA course, our work got taken out to the Bologna Children's Book Fair.
Yeah.
The tutors sort of set up a stand there and sort of agented it for us, and so mine got spotted by HarperCollins US and got picked up, the project that I'd done on the MA course. And so that was why my first 2 books were American, US publishers. And they were all 3D as well, so they're really different from any books that I've done since.
I had a quick look at them actually online, and I was blown away by them. It just really reminded me of whenever I see you online at book festivals or in person, that you have these little miniatures, and it was really lovely to actually see that it was infiltrated within the books as well. So it was really amazing. Whereas obviously with the Isadora Moon and the books going forward, there's no sort of 3D element to any of that now.
I feel like, I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like it's easier to get 3D work published in the States, actually. I think it's more of I think publishers don't go for that so much over here, so I don't know, but I really enjoyed doing those and just being able to create whole miniature scenes and then photograph them, and I really love that. It's really takes up a lot of space though.
So how did you get into all the miniatures and everything? Because I know that's just such a massive passion. Anybody who follows you on social media or subscribes to your website is absolutely blown away by all these amazing creations that you come up with. So how did you get into that?
I don't think I ever got into it, because I just always loved tiny things. Like, I've always been obsessed with tiny things. I don't know what it is, I just love miniature things. I think it's like being able to create a whole miniature world that's kind of, I don't know, you have control over, and you can, I think I don't know, I just love tiny things.
So what were your favourite toys when you were growing up then, if you were into really tiny things?
I loved Sylvanian families.
Oh yes.
So all those. And I loved, I was incredibly inspired by the Suitcase Kid, Jacqueline Wilson's Suitcase Kid book. And in that little girl in that book, she has a little Sylvanian rabbit called Radish, and she takes this rabbit around, and it's her little mascot, and she takes on lots of mini adventures, and she plays with it in a sort of a different way that I'd never thought to play with my toys before. So when I read that book, I then had a mascot, and that was where I got that idea from, and I played that game for years and years. Like, that was probably the main game I played as a child, with a miniature character, making it little mini things, and it being my miniature friend and taking on adventures and stuff.
That's so nice. Have you still got them? Have you still got your Sylvanian toys?
I don't have my original Sylvanians, actually. I didn't always use a Sylvanian, so I might have used a little doll or a bear. Yeah, but I still have a little mascot. Like, I have a little Whiskling mascot. So, and I was going to talk about this, but yeah, there was my one that inspired.
Oh yeah, I've seen some nice pictures of her. Actually. Yeah, very nice. And what about books when you were younger? What were your favourite books? What were you into?
I loved, I don't know if you've heard of the Pookie books.
No.
They're about a little rabbit with wings, and they're very charming. And he lives in a forest, and there's lots of fairies and elves and mushroom houses, and it's very charming. Like, I loved those books. And I loved the Dory books by Patricia Coombs.
Yes.
Yeah, about a little witch. And yeah, the Suitcase Kid was very inspiring for me. I love Brambley Hedge, where they all live in the little trees. I think I probably took a bit of inspiration from that.
I really saw a bit of Brambley Hedge when I was reading Victoria Stitch, when you were describing the tree stump houses and windows in the park. It really reminded me of that a little bit.
Yeah, I love the idea of living in a tree, being miniature and living in a tree.
Yeah, well, you know,
just being with nature like that, I just love that.
Giant redwoods, you know, definitely bigger for humans.
Yeah.
So we've had lots of wonderful Isadora Moon books, and we have another one coming out in September or October, is that right?
October, yeah.
Yeah, Going to a Wedding, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isadora Moon Goes to a Wedding, yeah.
That's awesome. And we're loving Mirabelle, I just have to say.
Oh, thanks.
Really.
Mirabelle appears in Wedding, actually.
Oh, that's great. And you're writing some more Mirabelle books?
Yes. So I've written 3 already. There's just one out at the moment, but yeah. So yeah, there's at least 6. Going to be at least 6 of them.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, no, I really like that. Like that a lot. And now coming on to Victoria Stitch, Bad and Glittering. Absolutely loved this.
Thank you.
Please tell me that's going to be a series.
Well, I really hope so. I mean, there's definitely book 2, which I'm just starting now. I mean, I'm hoping that I will be able to carry on doing something in Whistling World for the rest of my life, to be honest. I would actually be happy to just do that world and Isadora Moon world and not actually do any other ones for the rest of my life. Actually, I'd be very happy with that.
That's amazing. Like, imagine though, that's obviously going to be at least another 50, 60 years, etc. You know, the inspiration and all the different, where are you going to draw all that? Where do you draw all your inspiration? Is this like, I hear some authors sitting in cafes listening to other people's conversations, but I mean, you know, you really do publish quite a lot of books, and they cover so many different areas, and it's brilliant. Do you ever worry that you're going to run out of any ideas for the next Isadora Moon book or anything like that?
Sometimes, but I feel like it only takes a really small spark of an idea to spark a story, really. I just have to think of something Isadora could do, like, oh, what could she do next? Or maybe she could she could go to a wedding, and then there's a whole sort of story that can come out of that. So but yeah, no, I do worry that I might run out of ideas, because there are quite a lot of books now. So yeah,
with the new characters, it's good, really good.
I feel like Whistling World's very big. There's a lot I could make doing there, but yeah, hopefully I won't.
I don't think you will. You're so creative. So I have some questions here about Victoria Stitch. So if you could just set up the story for us a little bit, that would be amazing.
Okay, so Victoria's Stitch is a whiskling, which is a tiny. The whisklings are they are no bigger than 5 inches high. This is a whiskling. This is a Victoria's Stitch to scale, and they live in a place called Whiskling Wood, which is a wood, and it's surrounded by a magic boundary wall so that humans can't. They don't see it. They can't get in. And Victoria Stitch and Celestine are born from a diamond. They are twins, and as the diamond grows in the crystal cave where all whisklings are born, it has a black mark in it that is called a stitch. They nickname it a stitch. And so diamonds are royals in Whiskling Wood. They don't come along that often, but their diamond is declared impure because of this black streak in it. It's never happened before. And so Victoria Stitch is, as she grows up, absolutely furious about this and really thinks it is her right to be queen, and that, you know, it shouldn't have made a difference. There was a mark in it, the diamond. And Celestine is actually quite happy with her life, and she has other dreams. And it's about Victoria Stitch striving to become the queen and be noticed and feeling like she's you know, got what she's supposed to have. Sorry, that's not a very good way of explaining, but yeah,
her destiny.
Yeah, fighting for her right to be queen. Absolutely. Or royal. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, no, it is such a fantastic story, and I love that it's just so full of dialogue and so many illustrations. And reading a book for like 8, 9 to 12-year-olds, you don't tend to see that much visual element to it, especially in some of the books maybe more aimed at sort of like the girls, and what they might be into, sort of more imagination of fairies and fantastical gothic, that kind of style. So was that quite liberating to have a character that's older, that it feels almost a bit adolescent or pre-adolescent, with all the emotions and the fury and the foot stamping and a lot more grown-up language, actually, especially if we're so used to reading Isadora Moon. Was that particularly liberating for you as a writer?
Yeah, I really enjoyed being able to write a little bit more like that. And the thing is I don't know if I should say this, because I know my editor wanted them to be a bit younger to appeal. So I wrote them in a way where they could have maybe been slightly younger, but in my head they are actually 18. And I know that's actually quite unusual for a middle grade book to have characters that are that age. But I feel because they're fantastical creatures, they're like, you know, little tiny little almost fairy-like sort of creatures, you can get away with them being older or even adult, to be honest. So I'm hoping that works. I just really wanted them to actually be pretty much adult, to be honest. But yeah, I specifically didn't mention the age because I think I was asked not to, and I understand that why, and that's fine. So if people want to read them as slightly younger, 15, whatever, they can. But in my head, they are actually, well, no, technically they are 18 because that's when whisklings leave school. So I guess, yeah, they are. But yeah, the reader doesn't have to know that. So.
And I must say, it didn't come across, I didn't even really think about it until they were talking about leaving school and what were they going to do. And Celestine had her dream about what she wanted to do. But obviously, Victoria is absolutely, you know, I'm off to get my crown.
Yeah.
It didn't even really cross my mind to that point. And then that's when I realised that these are much older characters, and it's actually incredibly refreshing, because you almost get that feeling of, actually, yeah, I don't want to grow up yet. Yeah, I want to have this, you know, aimed at my age, really, rather than having to feel like I'm reading such serious books without pictures and, you know, really thick and all that kind of stuff, I can get into my imagination. And actually, yeah, these characters are a bit older than I am if I was like a 9 to 12-year-old.
Yeah.
It is accessible. It really is. Yeah, it's amazing. And
Well,
the language is there as well. And it's that, yeah, just what you're saying actually around thinking, yeah, they could be 18, they could be 17. Absolutely.
yeah. Well, Whisklings they can live to 160 anyway, so I feel like they're relatively still young. I feel like when it's fantasy, it doesn't necessarily, matter so much anyway, but
Yeah, their hormones probably work quite different to ours, don't they, anyway?
yeah, they're not, I mean, I won't go into that specifics, but they're not built like humans, to be honest. I mean, they're born from crystals, so they don't have all the same things as humans and stuff, so yeah.
So when you're working up the characters, do you think about, do you sort of like do a full embodied theory about what do they eat, what do they, you know, what do they like to wear, what are their favorite, do you like sort of really sort of get into the character to develop character? Do you have to go through that kind of process, or is it just flows out of your brain really?
I don't know. I mean, I've been thinking about Whisklings for a long time, like years, so I've had a lot of time to build their world, and my first draft was 110,000 words long, so there was a lot more info in there which got cut. It went back, it's gone down to 42,000, so I cut over half of it.
Wow.
So there was a lot more detail, and there is stuff missing that isn't necessary, but you know, it did explain things a bit more. But
are you going to do a sort of a thing a little bit later, maybe on your website, of the bits that weren't in it? You know?
I would love to do an about Whiskling Wood book. Like a book, like in the future, if I was able to carry on the series, eventually do like an about Whiskling Wood book, and just have like a coffee table book with 3D like photographed images of environments as well, and things like that. I just think that would be really cool. But
real collectors, Harriet Muncaster collector's item. Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, what I was going to say about so there's lots of extra info and stuff about their world that I know, but I couldn't shoehorn into the book because
of course
but hopefully if the series carries on, which hopefully it will, I'll be able, you know, things will be drip fed into each book that will, I don't know, explain things.
So you said you've been thinking about Whiskling Wood for a long time, so when did you first dream up Victoria or the Whisklings?
Well, Victoria Stitch came first. So she was originally just a very naughty, bad fairy character. So she wasn't a Whiskling. And I created her 14 years ago on my foundation course. And I did a few books about her. I actually had my original Victoria Stitch book around, but I don't know where it is. But yeah, then a bit later, I created Whisklings, and the reason I created Whisklings was because I wanted a little mascot like I'd had when I was younger, because I'd had a bit of a gap from having one while I was at uni and stuff, and I wanted one again, but I wanted to make my own species of miniature person. I didn't just want to use a Sylvanian or anything like that. So I created Whisklings. So that was my first little Whiskling mascot called Celestine, and so I just created these tiny little creatures. They've got little antennae, and they've got super long eyelashes. That's a mark of their species, the girls do. And they've got little black tipped noses, and what's their other, pointed ears. And they're born from crystals. Amazing. So yeah, so that's how Whisklings came about. And then I decided to turn Victoria Stitch into a Whiskling, because I loved her character so much that I just sort of put her in the world and gave her the features, and then she became a Whiskling.
And how much of your personality is in Victoria Stitch? Or is it the opposites? You're Celestine.
I never know when, like, if I should admit, but like the thing is Victoria Stitch is always my real, like, most important, deepest character that I've always taken through life with me, and I do feel like she is more like me than other characters. Not that I go around thinking I'm a queen or anything like that, but I don't know, she's like very much feels like my alter ego. And I always feel like I probably shouldn't admit that, because she's obviously not, I don't know, but yeah, because people always ask me if I'm like Isadora Moon. They're always like, oh, you like Isadora Moon? And I'm always like, because I think Isadora Moon's so, I don't know, I don't feel like I'm as similar to her.
She's very young though, Isadora Moon.
Well, yeah, I think maybe that's it. And I do feel like Isadora Moon is a bit more of a character that maybe anyone could see themselves in, more of a cipher character, which is great. But yeah, I do feel I have more similarities to Victoria Stitch, but I probably shouldn't say that, because she's not the nicest character.
Well, there's some very touching moments in the book when Victoria, you know, she's very close to her sister, isn't she? And
yeah, I mean, I'm not actually, if I think about it, I'm not actually like Victoria Stitch, because I don't behave like her at all or anything like that. But I don't know, I think it's just I feel particular love for Victoria Stitch. I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, she's got quite a magnetic personality.
I think
There's
that's
something
what
about
I like,
her, isn't
what
it?
it is. Because I don't actually go around behaving like her, so maybe I'm not really like her. I just love her. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
She's
just special to me.
She's a real go-getter though, isn't she? She's a real go-getter, and she knows what she wants. And well,
actually, I know what it is also, is the fact that she was created when I was a teenager. And someone said this at my book launch, or like, no wonder that she's so important to me, because she was created during a very exciting important time of my life. And so that's probably why I feel so connected to her, I guess.
Yeah, you've gone on a massive journey with her, and she was conceptualized around the same time, I suppose.
Yeah. So it might just be that I feel extra connected to her, really, rather than that I'm like her.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
I just enjoy being able to live vicariously through her, you know, getting out all those things that maybe you don't say in real life, but you'd like to be able to, I don't know.
Is there ever going to be any crossover between Victoria Stitch, Isadora Moon, Mirabelle, or do you see those guys as quite separate?
They're very separate. I don't actually even imagine them, they're not even in the same dimension.
Yes.
Because in Isadora Moon, there'd be like a human world where there's vampires and fairies living in it as well.
Yeah.
Whereas Whisklings, I imagine it's our human world as it is.
Yes.
So there's no, obviously, vampires and fairies.
Okay.
But there are Whisklings, but they're hidden. Humans don't know about them. So they're sort of the only magical creature that exists in that world. So
that's amazing. Well, really looking forward to that coming out in September. It's going to be amazing. And I just have a few more questions that I sort of think maybe some of our viewers might like to ask. So tell us a bit about your fans. Do you get a lot of fan mail? Have you got any sort of like really enthusiastic fans, young, old? It's interesting to find out.
Yeah, there's quite a lot that love Isadora, and they dress up. I get a lot of pictures of children dressed up as Isadora, which is so lovely to see. And there's been quite a lot of Isadora Moon cakes that have been made for birthdays, and children have Isadora Moon parties, because I get tagged in these things on Instagram.
Lovely.
So that is really lovely to see.
Yeah, that's so gorgeous. And what about, you must have quite a following though for your miniatures. You know, perhaps adults are really into crafting and making miniature things. Do you get quite a lot of people contacting you about that kind of thing? Or are you part of that world? Are you part of a sort of a miniature world of people who craft that kind of things?
I don't know if I've got like a big following from that. I do follow a lot of miniature accounts on Instagram, and I do have some people that love miniatures that follow me. But I don't feel I'm necessarily so much in that world. I feel like I've got a foot in it, but I'm not like a...
You're not going to miniature conventions?
Oh no, I do.
Ah, there we go.
I do go to miniatures fairs, yeah.
Internationally, or just sort of like UK ones?
Just UK ones, yeah. There's a big one in London. It obviously hasn't been on this year, but I try and always go to that because I just love seeing all the new things that people make.
Yeah, no, it is amazing. You know, you must have to have such nimble fingers to be able to do that kind of thing. It's amazing. What advice would you give to anyone watching this if they want to follow your footsteps one day?
Obviously, just I think the best thing to do is really connect with what you're passionate about, like really find what it is you're passionate to write about or draw or whatever, and obviously do lots of practice of that. With drawing, it's important to do lots of life drawing and real life drawing as well as before you stylize anything. But I always struggle with this question because for me, I actually feel I wouldn't necessarily be where I was had I not done my MA. My MA was so amazing for me. But I know obviously not everyone can necessarily do an MA. So, and I know obviously there are ways to get into it without doing an MA. I just don't personally know those routes because I didn't do that. So, yeah, I mean, I would recommend if you can do an MA to do one, but I know that's not always the most helpful advice for people. But yeah,
are you missing sort of getting out on the road and things? Because of course, you know, it's been months and months and months, and you've had books out, and you haven't been able to go to any festivals, or I mean, you've done online ones, but you know, you haven't been able to get out there. Are you missing that life, or are you quite happy that you're not having to be on the train or in the car every 5 minutes?
It's quite nice to have a break, to be honest, because I did a lot of that for the last couple of years. I did loads of it. So it is actually quite nice to just have a bit of a break from it and just do online stuff for a bit.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't mind that, but I miss it a little bit because it is nice to connect in person. Yeah.
Do you think you might do a graphic novel one day?
I love the idea of a graphic novel. I would want to do it on Whiskling Wood, like in Whiskling World. I don't know if I've got the skills for a graphic novel because I think you have to be quite I don't know, I think there's a certain skill, like a certain art to doing graphic novels and comics and that sort of thing. I don't know if I have that, so I don't know if I would be very good at it. But also it's a lot of work, I think.
Yeah, I have got absolutely no idea how much extra work is involved.
I think it's a lot extra work doing a graphic novel.
Yeah,
I reckon.
Yeah, maybe a strip. Do a strip every now and again. That'd be so amazing. Yeah.
No, I do love the idea of it. Maybe I'd do a sort of picture book / graphic novel, a shorter thing that was sort of a graphic novel-y picture book. So it wasn't. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I have ideas, but I don't know.
What's a typical day for you? Are you? Is it like very much structured? Like you're writing in the morning, illustrating or modelling or doing what you're doing? Because you've got your daughter at home as well, haven't you? So
yeah, so we've had our daughter at home for like 3 months now. So it has been harder to get down to work.
Yeah.
Because so there just feels like a lot less structure at the moment, basically. But yeah, I mean, I work best in the morning. So morning is my time where my brain works properly to create, and then I'm useless in the evening. So I'll do anything I need to do, whether it be writing, drawing, whatever. I'll sit down as soon as I can in the morning, after breakfast and stuff, and do it then. And then into the afternoon. But I have to start in the morning to be able to carry on into the afternoon. Like I cannot start in the afternoon. My brain just doesn't work like that. I'm just a morning person. Oh, I brought a couple of minis just to little whisker. I've got a little whistling bobble hat here that I knitted.
That is absolutely gorgeous.
This is a tiny bottle of Chanel. It's actually slightly big for a whistling, that would be, but it's still really tiny.
A proper Marilyn Monroe size one to a whistling.
Yeah. Yeah, to a whistling it'd actually be about that big, but it's still just really cute. And then this I love because this is a tiny little mug with eyelashes on it.
Oh my! You made that?
No, I didn't make that. I bought that.
That is lovely.
from a shop called Pretty Little Minis, but it's I love it because it's got eyelashes, and Whiskling's obviously all about the eyelashes.
Did you
And then
knit that bobble hat, Harriet? Did you knit that bobble hat yourself?
I did knit this bobble hat, yeah.
That's incredible. Those stitches are absolutely tiny. How did you do that?
Well, I use needles that are about, I don't know, 1.5 millimeters or something. Very skinny ones, very, very thin. And then I get the wool and I split the strands so that it's even thinner and do it like that.
You must have the eyesight of a hawk, I think.
I don't know. And then lastly, this is a tiny little, because I love miniature jewellery,
yeah.
and that's how I got the idea for, that's not showing up very well, but
yeah, no, it's lovely.
Celestine being a jewellery designer was because I'd made this little mascot, and then I went to a miniatures fair and I saw this woman was there, and she'd made this amazing miniature jewellery, and that was when I got the idea. I was like, oh, she's a jeweler. So that's where all that came from. And I didn't actually make this necklace. This is from a jeweler called Naladris. But yeah, she does amazing mini necklaces.
Wow.
And tiaras as well.
Amazing, amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much. It was lovely to talk.
Oh, thank you.
Take care.
Yeah, you too.
Good luck with everything. Bye.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Bye.